Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I do want to keep this relatively short, but I'm just going to put this out there because let me just put it to you like this: as not only a Labour supporter, not only as a Labour voter, but also as a member of the Labour Party myself, news about apparently the poll suggests that Reform is only 1 point behind Sir Keir Starmer in the polls this week is what I would describe as incredibly misleading. Because in the first place, ladies and gentlemen, well, Nigel Farage and the Reform Party and Tim Rice and so on and so forth, they may think that Nigel Farage is only one step away from a momentous victory. But what exactly has Nigel Farage won? Nothing. Why has he won nothing, ladies and gentlemen? Because the election is 4.5 years away. So are you really going to try and tell me that Nigel Farage will be able to hold on to this momentum for 4.5 years? But you are aware, ladies and gentlemen, that Nigel Farage, and this is a very big if he really does become Prime Minister before 2030, you have to bear this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be 66 or 67 years old by the time he becomes Prime Minister. What do you suppose a pensioner will ultimately know about what goes on in this country that isn't anything to do with migrants or anything to do with gender studies or anything revolving around that sort of thing? What exactly does Nigel Farage actually know about the education system right now, never mind what the landscape will look like in 4.5 years' time? You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that I have read the Reform Party's manifesto even during the election. And a question I have to keep asking myself, and no doubt this is something that you have to keep this in mind, is that in the manifesto, they had no suggestions, they had no layout for things like transport, they had no contingencies or plans for anything involving energy. They had no real outlet into regards to trade from outside of Europe. They had no answer. Well, they had answers because I imagine this is something that their good friends Elon Musk and Donald Trump will sort out for them. You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, even though Donald Trump is getting inaugurated this week, is that 4 years will go by much faster than you may think. Donald Trump may become the president very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, but after these 4 years, he's not going to be the president pretty much after this. And by that point, who exactly could Nigel Farage turn to? What on earth is out there that Nigel Farage can actually state will be backing his corner? What do you suppose Nigel Farage is going to do to hold on to that level of momentum? What do you suppose Nigel Farage has answers for when questions like these will be brought up? Because believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, there will be people who will be going through these manifestos. There'll be people who will be going through plans. They will be doing this because you've got to have answers for these sorts of things, Nigel. That's the whole point of it, isn't it? You've got to have everything in order, and you've got to have an answer for everything you're doing. And you've got to be able to plan all of these things out, and you've got to deliver on the things you plan out. If you think it's really that easy, the Farage, then why are you still not? Why are you not leading then? That's the question I want to ask. Is that you go on about Starmer, and there's no doubt the far right press are going to go after them anyway because, well, let's be completely honest as well, is that the right wing press, they don't need any more motivation whatsoever to go after Labour. You may argue Labour will fluff up things one way or another. They're not perfect, and of course the press will take full advantage of this. Whether or not they take full advantage like they didn't take full advantage for the last 14 years is something we're going to have to see and sort of assess on a very case-by-case basis. Because, as I mentioned again, ladies and gentlemen, 4.5 years is a very long time. And are you really trying to tell me that Farage really is going to be the man for you? Are you really trying to tell me that Farage is going to have your interests at heart? Are you really going to tell me that Farage at 66 or 67, he will know what to do? Nigel Farage, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, has an extremely checkered and an extremely controversial past. And if you're trying to tell me that that sort of man, and while there are too many things I can't go into detail here, but I certainly know I can direct you towards the things he has been involved in and has done, considering the story that was even circulated about him earning salaries from 9 different jobs, and him even saying that as MP he gets paid the least. Are you really trying to tell me that somebody who what does something like that suggest to the average voter? What does that sort of thing suggest to those who are just trying to get by, and to that Farage is going to promise will make Britain a greater country again, when it has its leader earning 6-figure salaries, and he's allowed to do as many part-time jobs as he wants, something that this current government is doing hard to pretty much stop and curb, because it sets a precedent that those who make the rule can have all the money as well. If you're trying to tell me, ladies and gentlemen, that if you think someone like Farage is the answer to your problems, then perhaps you're asking the wrong questions. And besides, ladies and gentlemen, as I keep saying again, if Farage is that confident and he thinks he is that better, and if you think that the people agree, then why isn't reform in government right now? Why isn't Nigel Farage the Prime Minister? And for that matter, why on earth does a reform or other right-wing press, why are they under the illusion that Sir Nigel Farage is the voice for the working man? Where does that come from? What's that based off of? What on earth do they mean? Do you think these so-called journalists, do you think that any of them actually speak to the man in the street that isn't, a white Protestant? If that's what if you're trying to tell me that's what people really think about you, Farage, then again, I'd like to see the people you pay to say these sorts of things, because certainly nobody has ever asked me for my opinions. Very seldom do you even get, have I even received word from Labour about what they think about my opinions. But if they're not even willing to do that, then what makes you think that Nigel Farage will do that? Because one more thing, ladies and gentlemen, before we go. Reform have never asked me, and I know you've heard me say this before, but guess what? They need my support as well. Reform need to count on my vote as well. That people might say out there that I'm just somebody who knows my own mind, and therefore I wouldn't vote for them. But then again, well, try and convince me then. You've got to try a little bit harder than that. And, well, I'll just reiterate what I said before. So if you think that Nigel Farage really is the man for you, ladies and gentlemen, well, see what happens in the next 4.5 years, and then we'll see. But if you're really trying to tell me that in spite of every single thing that we know that's happened, everything we know about Farage, if you're really trying to tell me that he is the man for this, well, I've got to start asking some serious questions as well. So, good luck with that.